Welcome to your Coburg. We have a very special guest this week, Sara Jewell. Thank you so much for coming to Coburg, all the way from Nova Scotia. She's talking about her very special book launch, Field Notes. Just tell me about the book and about yourself.
About myself. I used to live in Coburg. My dad is originally from Fenella, which is just north of here, so born and raised. He went to the old Coburg West High School, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that little historical connection there. So we lived here for a few years when I was a child. When things sort of went sideways out in Vancouver, this was home and this is where I came to. But I also returned home to Pugwash, Nova Scotia, where my parents had a summer place. So this book is a collection of stories and essays about coming from a city, coming to the country, meeting a country boy and marrying him, and everything that sort of unfolded and happened in the small little adventures, fun little adventures, and the people that I've met in rural Nova Scotia.
So this is your first book, an exciting
Yes.
launch.
Yes.
And you've written so many columns, articles. You're an award-winning journalist and writer. How is that built up to this book?
This book is a compilation of Field Notes column. I wrote in our local community newspaper a column called Field Notes. It was sort of observations, city girls' observations of country life. I also wrote a column called In Conversation With, where I went out and interviewed people. Whatever, I interviewed a guy who worked in a fire tower. I interviewed a young man who'd been badly burned at a bonfire. So anything anyone would agree to talk to me, I talked to them. And also I write a lot for Saltscapes magazine and the Chronicle Herald newspaper. So this collection of essays isn't direct reprints. The columns have been expanded and the stories have been tweaked to suit the collection. So it's just, I was able to bring everything together into, it's arranged in 4 different sections by themes. There's, animals and the Rural Appreciation Society, things like that, and bring them all together in this collection.
Now, this collection, interesting to read because it's your perspective, and it gives another light on you and your exciting self. For people wanting, maybe picking up this book at a local bookstore, what are some of the highlights, or what would maybe stand out for someone wanting to, read this book?
You're going to laugh and you're going to cry. And I apologize for the crying, but I seem to have front-loaded the crying. But just some really poignant one. Some people's favorite story seems to be the story about my mother-in-law and her experience of trying to do a home birth and what happened with that. So that's a beautiful story. When she told me, I knew it was going to become a story that I was going to share with the world. And she did eventually agree that yes, this is a story to tell. But I write about. You know what? There's a story about roadkill. Because when you walk a dog every morning, I was traumatized by the experience of roadkill that wasn't quite killed yet. But then there's also in rural Nova Scotia, they wave at everybody all the time, whether they know you or not. So I wrote there's a whole essay about the wave where I try and explain and understand the wave. So you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and you're going to come away maybe even wanting to move to rural Nova Scotia, because it really. They're not love letters necessary to rural Nova Scotia, but I do appreciate being there, and I'm glad to be there. I've lived in cities, lived in towns like Coburg and Trenton, so I eventually made my way to the right place at the right time, where I'm happy and where I'm very, very creative, and I'm just really grateful that all has come together into my first book.
So tell me about your book tour, because that's exciting. Even crazy busy getting cookies ready upstairs. What does that all entailed?
It's a regional book published by a regional publisher, Nimbus. But I wanted, because Coburg's mentioned in it, Trenton's mentioned in it, I wanted to bring it to Ontario and share it with the people like my friend Sheila, who have been waiting forever for me to have a book launch in Coburg. So Kingston and Coburg and Oakville, where I lived for 2 years and have made lifelong friends there, who came to our wedding and came to our anniversary party. And then in Trenton again, the last stop is in Trenton, to share it with, that would be high school friends that will show up there. So I wanted to share it with everyone. The cookie making, there's a thing, Nova Scotians have something called an oat cake, and that's an Ontario way of saying oatcake. I don't think so. They don't say oats, but anyway, they say pour, we say pour. There's some of those funny little things. But I'm baking heart-shaped, Heart and Home, subtitle of the book. I'm baking heart-shaped oatcakes because oatcakes are very genuinely and exclusively, I guess, maritime. So I want to bring that little taste of the Maritimes to the Coburg book launch, because it's just an amazing experience to be able to bring this book back home to my hometown and share it with friends and family here. Really exciting, Graham.
It is. Now, Sarah, for local people wanting to purchase your book, how can they do that?
Let's Talk Books. They are well stocked. They are so enthusiastic about it. I am so grateful for their enthusiastic tweeting and Facebooking and really just supporting it and being excited about this being here. It's a little challenging when I'm not sort of a local author. I am, but I'm not. And so I'm pleased. Supporting independent bookstores. Everything along the book tour has been at or through using an independent bookstore as the seller, and it's really important to support them. Supporting our local businesses that aren't the big box chains that serve their purpose, I suppose, even though that gets me started on what they've done to businesses in rural Nova Scotia and any rural area. But it's just it's nice to support the indie bookstore, and Let's Talk Books have lots, and if they run out, they will happily order you some more.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And we can't wait for maybe more field notes.
Well, fingers crossed. Working on it.
Take care.
Thanks, Graham.